is Gerald Students Operating, and my article research was for the article called "What is Good Research" by Carl Harstetter. What is good educational research? Good educational research is more of a methodological question rather than an ethical question. Now, to tell the difference between the two, the methodology is more of a process. Methodology is more of the steps that are required in the research process. It's also part of the hypothesis, includes the independent variables, the dependent variables, includes your controls, how you're going to present your data. It includes your conclusion, the question that you're trying to answer. Basically, just what the term means is the methods. Methodology is the process that is used within the research versus ethics or ethical questions. Ethics relies on how we think and how the research is going to be perceived by others. How is it going to be perceived by the community? How is it going to be perceived by society? How is it going to be perceived by our fellow researchers and educators and other scientists? Is our research harming others? Is our research beneficial to others? All of these questions relate to our methodologies and relates to the ethical questions and the ethical areas of science. And what is good research includes this process. So the whole central theme of this article by Harstetter surrounds the thought about human well-being. Human well-being is more related to how we feel and how others feel the research upon those individuals is being taken place. Anytime we, as scientists and researchers and as educators, perform any type of research study, we must always think about how is it going to affect my subjects or our subjects? How is it going to affect our students? How is it going to affect the parents, the school, the district, or even our fellow coworkers and fellow educators? So this whole article about what is good research stems around this premise. Now, good educational research is dependent upon sound principles and steps of scientific inquiry. A question has to be answered. In order to answer a question, we have to come up with the right question. When we perform research and starting out with our hypothesis, in which chapter 1 in the book relates to the steps of the scientific process, the hypothesis may not be answered after doing your research. The purpose of doing research is not to find out if your hypothesis is correct. All you're doing is testing your hypothesis. You may do your research and find out that your hypothesis is incorrect. Now you have to reformulate your hypothesis and start or go back to the drawing board with the research. It doesn't mean that you were wrong. You could have came up with extraneous variables that compete with the independent variable in your study. It just means that you have to go back to the drawing board. And all these processes relate to good research practices. Now, good educational research must consider human well-being and must involve various concepts to gather data and information, such as qualitative data and quantitative data, or information which relies on precise measurements. When we take quantitative data, we are relying as scientists on hard, concrete evidence. The difference between qualitative data and quantitative data, for instance, qualitative data relies on opinions and can be placed into categories. Qualitative data, we may, in education, take a survey, a needs assessment survey. We may survey parents, we may survey teachers, and even students to find out what kind of action research needs to be taking place as a leader in the building. Qualitative also pertains to how people feel. We can ask them essay type questions. We can ask them, we can give them an interview about the research that we're performing. They can be part of the control group or the experimental group. But all this lies in the words. It has nothing to do with numbers. But on the other side, or on the other hand, when we deal with quantitative data, we need precise information. We are looking for that hard, concrete information, that hard, concrete data in our observations and from our results. Just as if we're trying to see if studying helps to improve student test scores, we may interview the students to see how they felt before they studied and after they studied, or if they studied in a quiet area versus listening to music, or in the noisy area, or did they study alone or with a friend or a partner. That's qualitative information. But after they take the test, you can use pre-tests, pre-assessments, we can use post-assessments, but those numbers, as quantitative researchers, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for that comparative data. We're looking for that precise data, the hard, concrete evidence. We may go all the way back, if they're in high school, you may also go all the way back to middle school and compare their high school grades with their middle school scores. That data can be used for that purpose also. We can, as far as qualitatively, we can categorize the students from gender, we can categorize them by race, we can categorize them by grade level or age level. But the difference between qualitative and quantitative is very specific. Now you can also have mixed data when you include both qualitative and quantitative in your results. And a lot of researchers include both of those. But the whole premise of this, what I'm saying is in this article, is to define what is good research. Now, researchers are expected to be knowledgeable and be able to articulate regarding the processes of research. As a researcher, one cannot perform research haphazardly. Qualitative and quantitative research are both very important in research processes. Now, we always have to think about the human well-being in this process. We have to always think about the human perspective. We must always think about our subjects in our experimental or in our experimentation. And we always have to think about what's going to happen ahead of time. Try to be not necessarily explicit or precise, but try to think about what's going to happen during my experiment. Because we just can't go into an experiment haphazardly according to the author of the article. We have to always come up with a question, and we have to always come up with a process for answering that question or those questions in our research. When we look at the complexity of goods, we can compare this to character traits. The author talks about in the article the complexity of goods. And the character traits such as good judgment and respectfulness may be more important to one person or researcher rather than playfulness and skepticism, which may be important to another person. Each has its place, but playfulness may not be important in an educational setting per se, versus respectfulness and having that ability to have good judgment. Those two things rely heavily in education, because you have to respect yourself, you have to respect your classmates, and you have to respect your teacher. Also, having good judgment allows students to be able to inquire and to think critically to come up with answers to any question that's presented to them. But a little bit of skepticism may be found in education, because at the beginning of a class that a student has never taken before, they may be a little bit skeptical about their success in the class. So while the author says that skepticism should not be a large factor of those complexity of goods that a student may have, but the most important thing is for them to have a little bit of skepticism that can be eliminated by the end of the course, after the student sees that they're successful, and that judgment, that good judgment, and that respectfulness are the major factors in the complexities of goods that Harstecker is talking about. Now, teachers transitioning from, now the author also in this article talks about teachers transitioning from being teachers to researchers. And teachers transitioning from teaching to researcher must go from normative to analytical. For instance, if two students are arguing in the back of the class, the reasons behind this may be more complicated to understand, since it's one student who's in the other because they are rich or well off. Now, that's on the normative side of the equation. Now, the reason behind this student thinking that or resenting this other student for being rich lies in some way of thinking. That's analytical. That's part of the analytical side of the equation, of course, it are. But even though there's many transitions that a teacher has to make to become a researcher, the normative to the analytical is one factor that the author says is very important for a teacher transitioning to becoming a researcher. While a teacher is ready to break up the fight and handle the situation, the researcher is trying to figure out why is this student resenting this other student, and what's the purpose of resenting this other student, what's the purpose of fighting this student because of that reason, or for that reason. So all these are parts of good research that the author talks about. This is the normal part of the equation when the student is resenting the student, and the questions of why this student did that or resenting the student is the analytical part of it. One cannot do science without certain basic commitments, such as respect for evidence and the value of simplicity and consistency in explanations. You have to be consistent. The main point is surrounded by the human well-being. We must also put the human well-being at the center focus of our research as educators. We must always put them in the center of what we're doing. We have to take their feelings and their well-being and their thought process into account if we want to be good researchers. As researchers, we should consider freedom as an important aspect of our research. The article talks about freedom as an important ethical and academic good, and it should not be infringed cavalier. You can't take it lightly. Now, I feel from taking at the end of this article, I feel that if you read it, you will take away 5 points from these statements that were made in the article. Number one, there's a need for moral education. Number two, diversity of community. Number three, diversity in community. Number three, knowing we don't know. You have to know that we don't know. We don't have all the answers in sciences. That's why we're searching for the answers to those questions that we present at the beginning of our research. Number four, the complexities of goods, like character traits. And finally, number five, being ethical. You have to have the human well-being at the center of our focus. You have to have the human's well-being in mind before you try to answer any questions. You have to be good scientists. And if you read this article, it will help you to be a good scientist, and it will help you be a good researcher, and it will help you to know what is good research. Thank you.